December 16th, 755. General An Lushan marches 100,000 soldiers from his base in Fanyang toward Chang'an, the Tang Dynasty's magnificent capital, the largest city on earth, home to over 1 million people. An Lushan is Sogdian and Turkish by birth, a frontier general who rose through ranks to command 3 military districts. Emperor Xuanzong trusts him. The court considers him loyal. They're catastrophically wrong. An Lushan declares himself emperor of a rival Yang Dynasty and captures Luoyang in 13 days. By 756, Chang'an falls. Xuanzong flees to Sichuan. His beloved consort Yang Guifei is strangled by his own troops, who blame her for the disaster. The An Lushan Rebellion will rage for 8 years, kill between 13 and 36 million people, and mortally wound the Tang Dynasty. China's golden age, an empire renowned for poetry, art, trade, and stability, begins its slow death. By 907, the dynasty that seemed eternal collapses completely. The Tang doesn't fall to foreign invasion. It devours itself from within. The Tang Dynasty in 755 stands at its zenith. Founded in 618, it's ruled China for 137 years. Chang'an and Luoyang are cosmopolitan marvels, connected to India, Persia, and the Mediterranean via the Silk Road. Arab merchants trade in Chinese markets. Buddhist monks from India teach in temples. Persian Zoroastrians practice their faith freely. Tang poetry reaches artistic heights that will never be surpassed. Li Bai, Du Fu, Wang Wei create masterpieces studied for millennia. The empire stretches from Korea to Central Asia. Tax revenues flow smoothly. The examination system recruits talented administrators regardless of birth. It's civilization's apex. But beneath prosperity lurk fatal weaknesses. Emperor Xuanzong, brilliant in his early reign, grows complacent. He indulges in pleasure with Yang Guifei. Chancellor Li Linfu concentrates power in non-Chinese generals, commanding frontier armies. These jiedushi, military governors, control vast forces loyal to them personally, not to the emperor. It's a time bomb waiting to explode. An Lushan detonates it. His rebellion shocks the empire because he was trusted completely. He'd even been granted the honor of becoming Yang Guifei's adopted son. But ambition drives him. When rivalry with Chancellor Yang Guozhong threatens his position, An strikes first. His frontier troops are battle-hardened veterans who fought Khitan and Turkic nomads. They smash through imperial forces, protecting the capital like a knife through silk. The conquest is swift. The occupation is brutal, and Sun murders him in 757. Paranoid and increasingly violent, An becomes a liability to his own cause. General Shi continues the rebellion. He too is eventually murdered by his son. By 763, Tang forces, aided by Uyghur cavalry and Arab mercenaries, suppress the uprising. But victory is hollow. The dynasty survives but is permanently crippled. The An Lushan Rebellion's devastation defies comprehension. Census records show China's population dropping from 53 million in 755 to 17 million in 764. Whether 36 million actually died or simply weren't counted because government collapsed doesn't matter. Either way represents catastrophe. Chang'an is sacked. Luoyang is destroyed. The North China Plain becomes a wasteland. Farms are abandoned. Infrastructure crumbles. The Silk Road trade that enriched the empire dries up as Central Asian territories are permanently lost to Tibetan and Uyghur forces. Tax revenue collapses. The central government never recovers its authority. Most disastrously, The jiedushi system that enabled An's rebellion is now entrenched. The generals who suppressed the revolt demand autonomy as payment. They become warlords ruling provinces as personal kingdoms, remitting little or no tax to Chang'an, appointing their own officials, passing power to chosen successors. China fragments while technically remaining unified. As regional power grows, central authority withers. Court eunuchs fill the vacuum. These castrated palace servants originally managed imperial households. Now they control emperors. They crown and depose rulers at will. When Emperor Xuanzong attempts reform in 805, eunuchs force his abdication after 200 days. Emperor Wenzong plots their overthrow in 835 during the Ganlu incident. The conspiracy fails. Eunuchs execute Wenzong's allies publicly in Chang'an's West Market. From that moment forward, emperors are puppets. The throne that once commanded millions becomes a toy manipulated by palace servants. Meanwhile, factions within the bureaucracy, the newly factional struggles lasting nearly 50 years, tear the government apart. Scholar officials fight each other instead of addressing collapsing infrastructure, mounting debt, and peasant suffering. Nature adds to human-made disaster. Droughts strike in the 860s and 870s. Harvests fail. Famine spreads. The government's response is raising taxes on starving farmers. Salt monopolies price essential goods beyond ordinary people's reach. Smuggling becomes widespread. Bandit armies, some thousands strong, roam the countryside raiding convoys and besieging cities. The situation is combustible. In 874, it ignites. Huang Chao, a wealthy salt merchant's son and failed civil service candidate, raises a private army. His Huang Chao Rebellion becomes the most destructive uprising in Chinese history. For 10 years, his forces rampage across southern and central China. In 878, they massacre foreign merchants in Guangzhou, Arab, Persian, Jewish, Christian, Zoroastrian traders slaughtered by the tens of thousands. One medieval source claims Huang Chao killed 8 million people. The number is likely exaggerated but captures the scale of horror. Huang's army captures both Tang capitals. Chang'an falls in 881. Luoyang follows. The imperial court flees repeatedly. The once magnificent cities are systematically looted and destroyed. Huang Chao is eventually defeated in 884, but the dynasty is finished. It survives in name only. Real power rests with warlords who fought the rebels. The most successful is Zhu Wen, originally a salt smuggler who served under Huang before defecting to Tang. For his service suppressing the rebellion, he receives military governorships and rapid promotion. By the 890s, he's the most powerful man in China. Emperor Xuanzong tries resisting. Zhu Wen has him assassinated in 904 and installs a puppet, 13-year-old Emperor Ai. 3 years later, Zhu forces the boy emperor to abdicate and proclaims himself founder of the later Liang Dynasty. The Tang Dynasty ends not with epic battle, but with a powerless child signing papers. 289 years of rule conclude in bureaucratic humiliation. What follows is chaos. The 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period sees China splinter into rival states ruled by jiedushi warlords. For 53 years, 5 different dynasties claim imperial legitimacy in the north, while 10 kingdoms control the south. Warfare is constant. Borders shift annually. Populations are displaced. It's everything the Tang prevented for 3 centuries, and everything its collapse unleashes. Not until 960 does the Song dynasty reunify China, by convincing military governors to retire with generous severance packages rather than fighting. The first Song emperor understands the lesson. Never let generals become too powerful. Never trust eunuchs with political authority. Never let the center weaken. The Tang's mistakes become the Song's textbook. Why did the Tang fall? The An Lushan Rebellion revealed fundamental weaknesses, but didn't cause collapse alone. The dynasty actually recovered significantly under Emperor Xuanzong in the early 9th century. The Yuanhe Restoration saw territorial reconquest and administrative reform. But underlying problems remained unsolved. The jiedushi couldn't be eliminated without civil war. Eunuchs wouldn't surrender power voluntarily. Factionalism was structural, not personal. Tax reform failed repeatedly. As long as regional governors kept revenue instead of sending it to Chang'an, the central government stayed bankrupt. As long as court eunuchs controlled military appointments, competent leadership was impossible. As long as scholar officials fought factional battles instead of governing, administration decayed. The Tang Dynasty didn't collapse from one blow. It bled from 1,000 cuts over 150 years until nothing remained but a shell. The irony is bitter. The Tang fell because of its own success. The examination system that recruited talent created factional rivalries. The jiedushi system that defended borders enabled warlordism. The prosperity that enriched cities made officials complacent. The stability that allowed cultural flowering produced weak emperors more interested in poetry than governance. Emperor Xuanzong, the brilliant administrator who presided over the Kaiyuan prosperity, became the indulgent ruler whose obsession with Yang Guifei allowed An Lushan to rebel. One man, two reigns, two completely different outcomes. That's the Tang tragedy distilled. Success breeds complacency. Complacency breeds corruption. Corruption breeds rebellion. Rebellion breeds chaos. Chaos breeds collapse. On December 16th, 755, when An Lushan marched toward Chang'an, he didn't just start a rebellion. He began a process that would take 152 years to complete, but was inevitable once started. The Tang Dynasty fell because empires built on centralized authority cannot survive decentralization. Once power flows away from the center, it never flows back without complete collapse and reconstruction. In 907, that collapse was complete. The greatest dynasty China ever produced destroyed itself from within. The lesson echoes across history. External enemies can be defeated. Internal decay is fatal.